Yeah, do I have your attention? Somebody unmuted, tell me if you have my attention.
Yes, sir.
Can you see me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Sir,
Pardon?
sir, many are waiting in room, sir.
I
You
am
need to
not
let.
getting any.
Sir, if you click on participants, you will find their names.
Yeah, I've clicked on participants. Okay. Praveen Nayak, Mohit Sharma, Prashant Kalmuri. Okay, are we ready? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Uh, we will basically discuss your syllabus first. Given the fact that we have only half an hour time, this is something that will take a little bit of time in itself because people have actually created a syllabus which is which consists of many elements, and actually to teach this all in one semester itself is a very big thing, and to teach it with half an hour classes is a bigger task. So this is called political thought, ancient and medieval political thought. Now, this is neither, it's not confined to India, and it is not confined to the West. What we see here is that what we see is that there is uh, a mixture of basically a mixture of several things. Okay, like for example, can you see the slide? You'll see Western and Indian political thought, a comparison. Now, each of these is an ocean in itself. Each of these is an ocean in itself. And to basically compare them would probably take a full 2 years to do some kind of justice to it. But we have to gloss over many things, and that too with this half an hour classes, we have even further constraints placed upon us. Now, the first thing that I'd like to tell you is that it is possible to talk about Western political thought in the context of the ancient period of the West and in the context of the modern period of the West. The medieval period, which is dominated by Christendom, that did not really have a this thing. What should I say? A political component to it. Religion became everything. Everything else was subsumed to that. Now, if you take the case of India, India presents an even bigger problem because political thought in India came up only towards the 19th century, and it consisted of very few people who had original ideas. When it comes to talking about original ideas, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi is a very original thinker. But you also have other thinkers like Ambedkar, who was a product of Western education. And you will also see that there is a uh, Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, a Fabian socialist, and he was a thinker, he was a visionary, even though the forwards that you get on WhatsApp University will tell you that all the problems that we have in the world today are due to Mr. Nehru, which isn't true. Nehru was a visionary. If we see whatever little development that we have today is because of him. Uh, you must remember that the BJP and the RSS, they did not even have people in the freedom fighters line. So now they are spreading canards to try and discredit the Congress party. And I'm not a supporter of the Congress, but the people who belong to it at that time. Yesterday, I was aghast when I got not yesterday, day before yesterday, I got a forward from somebody saying Radha Krishnan, Sarvepalli Radha Krishnan, this on Teacher's Day, which is his birthday. I was told that Radha Krishnan basically copied the ideas of his students and presented them as his own, which is extremely unfortunate. Then there is a slide that will tell you that it is because of Nehru that we lost so much territory to China, Pakistan, all unsubstantiated. But Nehru was definitely a thinker. And to a certain extent, very, very limited extent, Phule was a thinker, not much of a, he was more of an action-oriented person than a thinker. So we don't really have, when people talk about Lohia, when they talk about other people like Govind Vallabh Pant, they are all talking about politicians who fought for Jayaprakash Narayan, all these people who fought for certain things, such as freedom and all, but they are not thinkers really. Now, this mishmash that exists in this paper is a bit of a difficult thing to deal with because we have to constantly switch planes. By planes, I don't mean aeroplanes. I basically mean planes. If Western political thought is here, Indian political thought is here, to keep coming from here to here and here to here. Okay, so that in itself is neither a pleasurable nor a desirable thing, but this has come from the great people who man the Telangana Higher Education Council. So we'll have to deal with whatever it is. But please remember that Indian thought, I'm deliberately dropping the term political. Indian thought is something that basically happened because of a cosmological understanding of life. When we talk about a cosmological understanding of life, what we are talking about is that people saw the cosmos, the whole world, the universe, if you want. They saw that as a living being. They saw that as a living creature. Okay? So everything in this cosmos, the universe, has life and soul in it. What you call stones, and we say non-living things. If you look at the Vedas, they will tell you, especially the Rig Veda, it will basically tell you that even grains of sand have souls. Okay, so nothing is non-living. Everything is living in the universe. The best example of that is something that you should understand as uh, the idea, the astrological idea that there are certain planets governing your life. So if you go to somebody who typically makes a Janam Kundali, he'll ask you what time were you born, which place were you born. So depending on the latitude, the time, they see how the constellation was in the sky, and depending upon that, they used to make they basically used to make what should I say, they used to make charts and also predict which way people would live in uh, that particular lifetime. Okay, now just because we don't find good astrologers these days, don't discredit the whole thing. At one time, people knew very well what was happening. It was not just astrology, it was also astronomy. Because please remember that without any tools, by tools I mean not even a paper, Indians had, ancient Indians, they were able to predict the whole idea of when an eclipse will occur to the second. They were accurate to the second without any implements and tools at their disposal. At most, they drew on the ground when they wanted to do the calculations. But otherwise, they had nothing. It was all up here. And please remember that Sanskrit did not have a script for centuries. It was in the medieval period that Sanskrit started using Devanagari script. Till then, people had to remember everything because there was no writing, there's no script to write. So if there is no script to write, then you have to remember everything. So people used to remember, recollect, make complex mathematical calculations, those which would ultimately, uh, you know, come to be so accurate. So everything about ancient India is not a bad thing. Ancient India was glorious in many ways. Some of the corruptions and the perversities that we see today, they crept in much later, much later. We'll talk about that also. So Indian thought is something which did not have the political in it. It was a cosmological thought. Okay. And later on, in the later periods, with the Aryans, when they came in small groups, well, there are two theories. One is that they came into India. That is what Romila Thapar will say. There are others who will basically say that there are others who will basically say that Aryans were born here and went out of India. Any which way, they were in India and they were a rural civilization. So the Aryan political, whatever organization, you can't call it political because we didn't have a polis here. We had the Janapadas, which were an organization of governance. And over a period of time, the Janapadas gave way to Mahajanapadas, which are bigger republics, and then finally to empires, starting with the Mauryan Empire. That was the first big empire that India saw. Later on, there have been many big empires. So you will find that there are all these empires. And we have been told that in the Chaturvarna system, it is the Kshatriya who's the king. But history doesn't correspond to this. If you look at the empires, most of the empires in the early periods were Shudra empires. The Nanda Empire that preceded the Mauryan Empire was a Shudra empire. The Mauryan Empire was a Shudra empire. And if you come to our own neighborhood, the Kakatiya Empire was a Shudra empire. And the Vijayanagara Empire was yet another Shudra empire. And the other empires that we can talk about, like the Shatavahana Empire, the Chola Empire, the Chalukya Empire, the Rashtrakutas, most of them were Brahmin empires. They were ruled by Brahmins. And these are very different from the Aryan Janapadas. Okay. And even today, if you actually look at temples in the northern part of the country, okay, when I was a kid, my parents traveled a lot and they dragged me along. So I had first seen temples in the southern part of India. in places like Kanchi, Madurai, Rameshwaram. Now, each of the temple there was like a small village in itself. They were huge, huge, imposing structures where you felt very insignificant, completely dwarfed. But you will also see that we basically uh, had a, when we go up north, when I went up north and saw some of the temples like the Kashi Vishwanath temple or the Badrinath temple, the Kedarnath temple, they were very small, extremely small. So the grandeur that was there in the southern, uh, the grandeur that was there in the southern uh, side of the country in the temples, that was not there in the northern side. Okay, so we'll have to discuss some of these things. Now, the other one says political thought, nature, methods, and significance. We can talk about significance. Now, what is the nature of thought? Is it good, bad, ugly? Is that what we are supposed to discuss when we say nature of thought? Okay, so that needs a little bit of elaboration. I've actually started running out of time, so I'm not going to go into that. Now, methods here is a word that shouldn't exist, ideally, because political philosophy or political thought, which is more generic, political thought or political philosophy are philosophical. Methods are methodological. Methods are used for empirical reasons, which is how do you, for example, how do you estimate the impact of a certain policy taken up by the government, okay, and administered to the people? What impact did this policy make, whatever the policy may be? Something like National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, NREGs. There you need a methodology. You will collect data that is empirical. Okay. So that is not a word that sits in comfortably there. But since it is there, we have to deal with it. We'll have to talk about empirical theory, which is basically a new American concoction. The Europeans don't accept empirical theory because they see theory as the opposite of empiricism. But the Americans believe that you can fuse those two together as well. So we'll talk about that. So I have run out of time. I'm getting a warning here that I have run out of time. So thank you very much for some of you who joined early. Some of you joined now. I think some of you left and rejoined. Well, that is the beauty of teaching like this. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know if they are listening to you or not. But I suppose that's the hazard of being a teacher in the times of COVID. Okay, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, a Spanish writer, wrote a wonderful book which is called Love in the Times of Cholera. Maybe if I survive long enough, I'll write a book, Teaching in the Times of COVID. So let's see how it goes. So thank you very much. Tomorrow, I will be meeting you at 12:30, because from 10 to 11:30 I have a lecture with the Human Resource Development Center of the Jamia Millia University. They want me to talk on the evolution of natural rights into human rights. So that I have to do. So that is the reason why I asked for postponement. And it was very kind of you. So thank you very much. There was a glitch in the morning, and I've even got an apology from Zoom for that, which is great. Though it said, oops, we are sorry. There was a glitch. There was a problem. They didn't say glitch. That's the beauty of computer science and computer engineering. If anything goes wrong, you can just say, oops. If you build something like the, what is that, Burj Khalifa in Dubai, I suppose if the wind blows and a few floors come tumbling down, you can't say, oops, sorry. You can't say that. So anyway, I'll see you tomorrow at 12:30. Please do come for class. I'm discussing the syllabus with you in detail for one reason, and that is because I want you to, if I just get into the syllabus and start teaching, you will not be able to make head or tail out of it. So I have to iron out some of these glitches, and it's only after ironing out some of these glitches that we will be able to, teach meaningfully. So thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow at 12:30. I will send you a link. Please do not get confused. It is only for tomorrow. Okay, Wednesday, we revert back to the 11 o'clock meeting. And hopefully we will not have problems. So thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.